Welcome back to the Informal Game. My name's Griff. I've got Chris over there behind the camera. I thought we'd talk some more about cities, so let's get right to it. I just gotta roll the little intro first. Stay tuned. So last time I talked about cities, I thought we'd just keep going with that theme of cities. We didn't really make any maps of cities together, which is kind of an important part of having a city. So I got some paper here, got some fancy new markers that I'm all excited about, because you never know how many colors you're going to need, but I've got all the colors. And I even have my D&D books here, but we don't really need these guys. They're all sitting here, not really necessary for making a city map. So let's just talk about making a city. Cities can be dealt with in a lot of different ways. A lot of times when I have my players coming to a city and they're adventuring in the wilderness, cities are kind of treated as a really abstract concept. It's just, you come in the city walls, we want to look for an inn, oh, there's an inn over there. You just do make-believe for the whole thing. But if you have a city that you want to do a lot of playing in, it's kind of a central point. Not kind of, it's the central point for your campaign. And your players are going to be hanging out there a lot. You want to have a map. You don't necessarily need a map that your players can see, but you really want to have an idea of what everything looks like where they are. So cities can be really as simple or as complicated as you want to make them, but I think it's important to think of them in terms of history. And so I thought it would be interesting to just design a city from the perspective of something that has been here since times of antiquity in the world, and there are reasons why certain things are where they are. I'd like to imagine that there's a big hill here, and my city is on a hill, and at some point followers of some deity, some kind of deity, decided to start coming to this hilltop to worship. And so over time what they did was they built this little shrine, a little tiny temple there, and their goddess, we'll make it a goddess. Their goddess is like a goddess of vengeance and perhaps compassion and mercy for the weak or something like that. So it has a duality in the kind of deity it is. It can be vengeful and dangerous, or it can be kind and caring. And that's kind of interesting too, because it's just an interesting contrast that this deity can be one or the other, and also that it's a feminine deity. I always like adding in little details like that. Over time, so we got this little temple on a hillside. I'm not going to draw the hill because it's going to be hard to, if I start drawing contour lines like I did in the other video where I showed how to build a castle but sort of did the outlines of a city, it's going to interfere with all the street lines. So I have another technique that I'll show you for making cities where you can get a sense of what's up and what's down on your map without filling it in with too many lines and scribbles. So I've got this temple, which is the really old one, and it's kind of a special sacred place. And then later they might have built another bigger temple. And that's great, because by the time this was built, there was probably a city already around the temple, or some kind of a place where worshippers who wanted to be near the temple would live. And so your city is evolving over time. We got the old temple, we got the new temple. Well, at some point, some sort of religious order sprang up that was a spin-off, and it's more of a martial order. And so you have perhaps something that looks more like, I'm trying to think, it might look more like, if you've ever seen pictures of Crusader castles, they've just got these huge slanted walls. They're just massive. So there's some kind of Crusader type castle here, and we should have the gate be a little bit bigger. And this is where an order of paladins lives. So we make our little Crusader castle here with towers around. And we're not going to go into too much detail on what's inside the Crusader castle. In fact, we can always change it later on. The main thing is that we know that there's this place here and the temple, and you have sort of that combination. In most cities, you have the people in power. A lot of times it's nobles and some sort of lineage, but in this case it's a a sacred order of paladins that lives here. And you also have the priests, and then you've got the third sort of part of the civilization or the society, which is the people that live here around these places on this hill. And so we've got these things, and now the city can start to evolve. I'll use red to mark things. Perhaps we have a big piazza here, and we're going to imagine that this place is surrounded by a lot of buildings that have cropped up, sort of medieval buildings. And then off of this, we might have like a road that comes over here. Maybe this road slants down this way and meets the other road. And we've got this road that kind of winds down through the city along. It follows the hillside. And so maybe it goes off this way. And it comes down and along. There might be a city wall down here somewhere. Maybe it goes this way, and we got sort of a main gate here. So we've got this snaking thing, and that's going to be our main road. And we know that this main road is constantly going downhill. So we put some arrows on it to show this is downhill. So this is a really big place. I haven't really gone into the scale of this at all. I'm just roughing it out. You want to rough it out first, and then you can always go back and redraw it. You can scan it. You can do all kinds of things to reproduce what you like and replace what you don't like. We've got all the tools to do that now. There's no need to always do things with markers like I'm doing on the show. And I just want you to know that, it's, once again, making maps is kind of one of the funnest things you can do if you're a DM. And so make lots of maps. If you're going to make a city, make 2 or 3 maps and pick the best one. They're not that hard to make. They're actually a nice way to spend some time alone. Listen to some music, draw some stuff. You will have a blast. So we're coming down here. Maybe this big castle is on a big outcropping or something. So the road out of the Paladin Castle kind of comes around and down. The other thing you might want to do is, I didn't really line it up perfectly, but perfectly enough. This is the road you bring goods up. The slant is fairly steep, but you can bring a wagon up this. You can ride a horse up this. But in the ancient times, the worshippers considered like you had to arrive at the temple on foot, perhaps. So maybe we have this giant stairwell. And you can't bring a wagon up this thing. This thing is just a stairwell that comes down. Let's see if I can make it meet up. This is a stairwell that the most pious of worshippers of this deity come up when they come to visit the shrine. And so you've got 2 routes up. The other thing that you can consider is that a city, once you've established, maybe down at the bottom we have like a road that comes this way and another road that comes this way. You got these roads, and these kind of follow straight lines. Maybe you bump out this way a little bit. But we've got this outer road, and this is an important road because this is the road that allows access to the castle walls. And so once we do a road that gives us sort of a perimeter, we can start to have more of a castle shape for the outer walls. And so you can then go in with your pen and start to do like an outer wall. Like here's your big massive gate, like that. We come up, we got towers every once in a while. I'll draw these small so they're not, gives us an idea of the scale of this space. So even though the lines maybe don't give a sense of how skinny the big roads are, we've got these towers here, and it kind of gives us an idea of how big this city is. Because we want a fairly big city, because when you have a larger metropolitan area, you can create more schemy, kind of nefarious things that go on in your city. In fact, we could even put like an extra gate down here. Often a city will have a couple gates on the outer wall And so we just kind of go around like that. And let me see, we got that gate. Put another tower there. Doesn't have to be perfect. We're just making our fun little speed drawing town here, right? Put one there. Boop. Okay. And you don't have to say boop when you're making your castle either. I just do that a lot. I do sound effects. I'm kind of an idiot. But it actually makes it more fun if you do sound effects. So I'm just enclosing our city with this castle wall. And just speed drawing. Later I can go back, redraw. I might just say, hey, it looks good enough to use the way it is, and I'll just use it. Often that's the case. One thing I thought about earlier too was that a city should have, maybe we could have, perhaps there's a gate here, and this gate is kind of interesting because for whatever reason in this society, we want to, as the people who live here, we want to put a place down here that's enclosed that looks a whole heck of a lot like a castle or part of the fortress. But this area down here is a special city. It's a sacred place. This is the city of the dead. This is where they take people when they die, and this is the funerary area, let's say, where they bring the dead to be buried or maybe put into big monoliths and stuff. Maybe even they have the whole wall. The walls maybe are just giant multi-story mausoleums where they just slide the bodies in. And of course, it's not a good place to be at night because it's a fantasy game and sometimes maybe undead things sneak around there at night. It's just not a good place to be. But we might also have a little temple here. But we've got this has got everything we need, right? We've got this main road coming down the hill. We've got the outer road that's on the level. We might break off and create another road that's sort of a main road that comes out this way, but it's got to come down this really steep hill. So it's just kind of going this way, maybe to this gate. And so we just put some little arrows to let us know we're going down from the big piazza up there. Same thing over here. We've got a road going off this way. Maybe we go off this way, and up here, we're up higher. We've got another road, and this road comes down this way, but you kind of think that there's maybe a lot of relief there and a lot of tall buildings there. And so you can come down this way and have this road maybe parallel to that and join there. So we got some arrows there to let us know. And you're seeing the city evolve. These are our major thoroughfares. They don't really go in a straight line. They're not very convenient. And we've got this stairway that's kind of it's the shortcut to get to the shrine. It's just that you've got to do it on foot. So here's the main outline of a city right here. It was pretty quick to draw. You can play here. You've got a lot of space to work with. You can impose some sort of a scale on here. Maybe one of these lines is, I don't know, maybe it's 500 feet per line, just to get an idea of how big this is. And the other thing that happens in a city is that you get a lot of infill. And so you might have these main roads done in one color. Luckily, I've got these wonderful markers here. And you're going to end up with areas that come off and create little alleyways that people can go through. And these alleyways in a city, post-Roman city, kind of Dark Ages, medieval era, those alleyways are going to be regular streets to the people that live there. You know, they're going to use those to get around. They're just not the main roads that maybe parades could go through on religious holidays, or military units would come down, or things like that. So we can begin to fill in our cities like this with little alleys. The main thing is that this city, you'll notice I'm working kind of historically, so we start with the little temple from antiquity. We've got the bigger temple. Maybe it's concurrent with the arrival of these paladins. Or maybe the paladins had another building and later they built their big castle. And then at a certain point they realized, oh, we need to reinforce the whole city. You can also have other... If you imagine that this road comes out and goes off in a direction, out here you can imagine that there's more stuff. If you do what I'm doing, which is you draw little alleyways coming off, right? And these can be minor roads, then what you end up with is what you get is the main roads that people use in the city and the main roads out of the city. But then you have all these other roads that indicate that there might be buildings there, and in your mind you know that these are surrounded by buildings and people have built up around them, and the same thing, the whole city is probably full of buildings here. The other thing you want to do as you build your city is maybe add in some piazzas, like as you come down here you might want to have some sort of piazza here, a gathering place, places where roads meet. You're not going to have all the roads there. Maybe there's another one here. I won't draw them all in, but you want these kind of open spaces. They don't have to be circular either. They're just these spaces that appeared over time. There might even be one along the outside edges here. And then little roads can come off of the corners in your other color that are just little alley streets. And these can wander around. Main thing is you don't want to fill it in. That's the other thing I wanted to talk about is I think people get really obsessed with you're creating a world. You've got to, I'm the dungeon master. I've made the world. I've made the dungeon. I got to have a city. I got to make the city. Everything's got to get built at once. The thing is that that's too much for you as a dungeon master to do. You just need these frameworks, like these big lines here. Now, when my players show up, I may have already decided that there's like a little tavern down here. And this part of town, I may have decided that this whole lower area down here, which is near where the dead people are and not really, and by the main gate, all of this down here is kind of a seedy, poorer part of town. And this tavern might be the kind of place you go to when you want to hire somebody to do something a little bit not quite to regulation according to the local lawmakers up here on the hill. So we know there's that tavern. I might put another tavern up here on this piazza. Generally speaking, you want to have at least one. I'm calling them taverns, inns, whatever. The places where people go to hang out. Places where your adventurers are going to go to hang out. And places where they're going to go to meet with people and do whatever they need to do. The other thing is that I've got this area sort of empty. Well, maybe we want to have a day when we are going to be adventuring in this part of town. So before I get together with my players, I go, I gotta work on this side of town. Maybe it's the lower part by the wall. And so I just put in some streets that kind of wiggle around through here and connect with other streets, right? And since I've got a hill here, maybe these are lower. I can have a street that comes off here and is kind of a shortcut that goes down this way. Maybe that's pretty steep. I might make it so that one is stairs too, right? You can do anything you want. I mean, if you wanted to, you could have, like a little funicular railway coming up one side of it. It's Fantasyland. Add what you want. The other thing you might think about is that although your paladins are enclosed in this area and they're very warlike and they get tithes and stuff that they use to support themselves and get food from the local economy, when this first started up here, you've got this area up here that might be kind of walled. There might be sort of a hill down on this side. I won't mark the hill like I did in the other map I did, but you've got this place, and this is where the clerics hang out that worship this deity, and they're going to have buildings in here along their wall, and different buildings for different things. They're going to have their own places where they go and they just meditate, and part of their daily routine. They might have an area on their property where, granted, this may be a little small, but let's say they've got an area over here where they've just got plantings, and they're just planting and growing crops inside their walls, and part of their duties are that they tend to their garden. Maybe they've got some trees in here. Any trees? And there's some sort of, maybe over here, I'll just scribble it in. This is some sort of place, area of worship and meditation over in the corner, hidden from everything. So they kind of have created their own little special enclave where the priest class lives and doesn't necessarily even have to deal with the rabble out in the streets. Other things you might want to make note of, I won't draw one in here, but Crusader castles always sat on top of a really reliable water source. So you got some water in here. Same thing here. We've got this big piazza, which I just outlined, but there might be a fountain in there. Maybe a big fountain. Maybe we make a big fountain. It comes up out of the ground and sprinkles water everywhere. Every piazza might have, in Italian they call them a pozzo. The pozzi. Every place around the city is going to have some source of water. Even though this is a medieval city that we're drawing here, you might look at it and go like, well, it would be reasonable for them to have sewers. So we can imagine that under the main streets and maybe even other places, you have sewers that drain water, wastewater out of the city. And so the sewers can be the beginnings of a dungeon. Maybe you have to go in through a manhole to get to the dungeon under the city. And obviously, we're playing D&D here, or some variant of it, so there's going to be a massive dungeon underneath this city place. But the main thing to remember is that we've got places, main places for people to go. You got the church, you got the paladins here. Maybe you don't visit the paladins, but they might play in your stories. You've got streets. You don't have to draw the whole city at once. I've just done like a framework for a city. And so when your adventurers come to the city and they go, oh, we want to find a winemaker or something like that, whatever they're looking for. We need somebody that makes ropes, right? And they're like, where can we go get this stuff? A lot of times you can role play it. You don't have to put it in the city. But you might want to be like, okay, there's a rope maker over here on Traveler Street. And he's supposed to be the best in town, so you want to go there. You talk to the locals, right? And the locals tell you, oh yeah, this guy's the best. And so you put a building somewhere in your map, and you make a note of it, and now we know that there's a rope maker down here, right? And every time your players need something, they're the ones that guide you into developing your city even further. You can't think of everything your players might want. And so if you leave it a little loose like this, when they want something, if it's available in the city, it's reasonable for it to be there. You can put it in the city and say, oh, it's going to be over here. Maybe it's over on Wall Street over here. Literally the street next to the wall. I think it's pretty self-explanatory what we've got here. The main thing to think about is you know where the city came from. It started here. It's evolved. It's spilled down the slopes of this hill that kind of peaks here with sort of in my mind, this is a really steep slope over here and then less steep going this way. And so it has evolved and it's turned into a real city. You got places, people do things like, you see this wall over here. You can imagine that there are all kinds of buildings along the wall out here. They don't have building regulations in this time period. If you want to build a building cheap, if you build up inside the curtain wall, you only have to build 3 walls. So you're going to have a lot of buildings being built up against the castle walls here because people are kind of sneaky and want to save money. So you can have things, areas like that, and that creates situations where you have places that, say your players want to get out of the city in the middle of the night. They don't want to go through the front gate down here, right? They want to sneak out because they don't want to be spotted leaving the city. Well, they can go to this tavern here and talk to people, and they can say, oh, it's possible to get out of the city at night. You might want to go down to this tavern in the seedy part of town and talk to somebody. And then they meet somebody, and he leads you off through these little tiny alleyway type roads to something near the city wall. And the whole way, the players might be wondering, like the encounter would be something like, okay, I'm going to go outside. You guys wait 5 minutes and come out after me and I'll flag you down. And then you go a block and it's like, okay, let's hang out here and see if anybody's following us. You turn it into something a little bit paranoid like that. And you know, if the players aren't going to be, they're going to be like, okay, this guy's kind of sketchy. Is he taking us somewhere to get out of town, or is he taking us somewhere where his friends are waiting and they're going to mug us of everything we own? We don't know. But we got to trust this guy because we really need to get out of town in the middle of the night. So he'll lead you to a place like these buildings by the curtain wall, and the people that live there will have dug a little tunnel out of the city somewhere. It might come out over here. And that's just an added bonus to adventuring. For some reason, we had to get out of the city without anybody knowing. Maybe the bad guys are keeping an eye on it here. All kinds of things can arise once you create a city. I think the main thing is just know where your city's been. It started as a tiny temple. It grew. We got another temple. Then we worship this deity that's vengeful and also caring. And an order of paladins appeared maybe 300 years ago, and they built this giant castle here. And so this whole thing is evolving, and what you get when you have a sense of sort of the history of your imaginary place, it gives you a real confidence as a dungeon master of knowing, okay, I know what I can do in my own campaign because I know the place that I've created really well. And so now it's not just a thing that looks backwards in time in your game, it's something that looks forward, because every little place can be a launching point that can create a new story that develops in your campaign somehow. Often it's something that comes from your players just deciding to do something, and it just gathers momentum, and the next thing you know, you've got a whole adventure that sort of started on a lark. Your players just said, we're going to do that, and you're like, okay, I got to figure this out. So hopefully this is good fun for you. I always tell people, look at these maps, sit down, draw your own, have fun with this. So here it is. This is our basic city outline. You can do all kinds of things in here, and like I said, you don't have to do it all at once. Even your world should be like that. You don't have to do it all at once. Just start sketching and drafting, and you'll come up with stuff. And as you go, it'll just keep improving and getting better. Make sure to check out our website. Link should be on the screen. It's also down in the description. And we'll see you next time on The Informal Game.